Today's broadcast is going to be short and sweet. We're going to talk a little bit about the winners of the AWS Chatbot Challenge. Tara's the expert on these. She, among others, helped to go through all of them and find the winners, and also actually try out the bots and make sure they were all working and doing cool stuff. So I'm going to turn it over to Tara in just a second, but I wanted to say a few things about chatbots. First of all, so I'm going to post this link in the Twitch chat here. And if you go there, you can see what all of the winners are. But I also just want to kind of outline the Lex service really fast. So the Lex service is particularly useful if you need to lie to your parents about your current whereabouts. So
I don't know if that's a good way to start, Randall, but okay.
I have to mute my Alexas. So it's particularly good about taking unstructured human-like input and turning it into an actionable function. So it's taking unstructured text and turning it into something that you can parse and derive meaning from. And that's pretty powerful. So for instance, in this bot, all it does is it fires off a Lambda function called whereRandall that returns my current location. And I can go and I can test this bot and I can say, where is he? And you'll notice, oh, where is he is in there. Let's say, where are you at, bro? So you'll notice here in the screen, I have where is he, where are they, where are you, hi, where is Randall, where is Randall? But I don't have the phrase, where are you at, bro? But where are you at, bro is still going to respond that I was at Starbucks a day ago. And the reason it's able to do that is that Lex builds a model of the intent that you are trying to invoke. So Lex is separated into intents, and then variables within intents are called slots, and information goes into those slots, and you can have various slot types. You can see some of them here, city, airlines, airport, stuff like that. You could also have custom slots that you create, and then you can do additional verification and initialization and validation. And the previous broadcasts that we've done, what we've done is we've used LexBots to vote. We've used LexBots to answer phone calls. We've used LexBots for all manner of things that are completely trivial compared to what some of these chatbots do. So I'm going to turn it over to Tara, and she's going to give us a brief overview of the winning bots. You ready, Tara?
I am.
Can you share your screen?
Absolutely.
And Coca-Cola is not a sponsor of the Twitch broadcast, but it's necessary on a day like today.
Oh, maybe I should have gotten one. All right, can you see my screen?
They can now, yes.
Yay. All right, so let me quickly talk about, so I have one of them up, but let me just quickly talk about the bots. The first winner, the number one, he won it all winner was BillFax. And this is a guy who owns his own company. BillFax is a company he owns. And what they do is if you need to get any type of permits or information about properties, permit valuation, if someone put a roof on your house at a certain time period because of restrictions that your roof has to be a certain age, if you will, like in Florida because of hurricanes. Ironically, yeah, we're having some issues in Houston, Texas right now. But if, those kind of information when you're either processing permits or people looking for real estate houses of certain, criteria, this is what BillFax does. And he has the only company that actually will allow you to give you counts of permits, the property, the cost, the geo, everything. So he's the first guy to do this, believe it or not, in the U.S. So this is the only resource you really have. So a really great product in itself. And what he found was when you have to do these queries, so they have customer service people, you call in, and then people have to do these queries. But what was happening is because the queries, they're actually running against the database, your customer service people that are receiving these calls are pretty technical. So they're actually going in, issuing queries based upon the request that's put in by the sales guys or the guys who wants permits. And those queries, take a little bit of time. So you're getting these things in, you're reading through the information that these people gave you, and it takes between 2 days and 2 weeks, depending on going back and forth, trying to understand what they wanted, etc. And he saw this challenge, yay, and thought it would be, hey, there is a better way. And using Slack could possibly be that way. So if you see on my screen, if this is the Bill Fax chatbot, and how this really helped them, and they're actually using this in production in real life. I'm in a test channel, so I won't disrupt if he's watching. I'm not actually using your production, I promise. But this is a test channel that I'm in, and instead of taking between 2 days to 2 weeks to get this data back, they now can type into this bot and get it back immediately. And so this is an immediate help for these guys, an immediate solution that actually works using chatbots, using Lex. That being the case, let's look at this. So Bill Fax, if I first go help, and you see I did it a few minutes ago, you'll see it says, hi, I'm the counts bot. I can give you counts of properties, permits, sums, evaluations, et cetera, et cetera. And then it actually will tell you what SQL it's running to give you the answer. So let's say, a customer service person, a salesperson is running this, they get the SQL back, and let's say they want to do some more nuance with it. They can actually then take this SQL and build custom queries on this or report. So it's really great. Not only can I use the bot to get the data back, I can take my SQL and actually build a custom report that can be given back. So you see I said help here, and it says, let's try one of the ones they said, account money, commercial, root permits. Of course, typing in front of people is always interesting. That were issued after 2015.
The number one error I make on the live stream is misspelling the word DynamoDB.
Do you really?
Every time.
I can't type the. I don't know why. It always comes out HET. I don't know. Anyway. And I'm sure after some time it'll come back, but I'll keep talking about it while it's thinking. And maybe I gave it a wrong date here. Let me look at something valid, because this is a test one that doesn't have all the data. Let me see.
I'm just trying to double check here. The support people would come in and they would, they had generated SQL that they would run, or they would write the SQL themselves?
They would write the SQL themselves.
Wow.
So yeah. So imagine how much faster this is, right? That I can type something that makes sense to people, and then this works. Let's try one that maybe, hopefully, still works. It has the data.
Like a PHP MyAdmin or a Kibana dashboard or something like that, just to make it at least a little bit easier. But wow, typing raw SQL as a support
They were
function.
typing raw SQL. And if you think about it, this is what was even more phenomenal about him doing this is the raw SQL they were typing was, hey, I want a root permit. It's in 2000. So they might have to go back and forth. Like, well, do you want them for the US or you want it for Florida, right? Do you want it for X, Y, and Z, whatever? Oh, it came back, if you can see.
That is so cool.
Yeah, so I asked, how many properties do we have residential fire damage in the state of Florida issued after 1/1/2000 on homes built before 1980? So that's, if you think about that from a perspective of, what if I got this in an email and now I have to go write the SQL to do this? And if you see, the SQL that actually gets to do this actually comes back to me. First of all, the answer came back to me almost immediately, within 1 minute. So that's minimizing this situation from someone having to wait 2 days to 2 weeks to literally 1 minute. You guys see it came back. But what if I wanted to enhance this or get a report? And if you can see that it actually gave me the SQL. And that's pretty phenomenal to me, that not only did he build this bot where it can take this information and get the data back, But he actually built this bot where it's dynamically creating SQL for you that actually runs live against the database to give you the data back. And to me, that's pretty phenomenal that he could map this so well that takes, properties. And I mean, I'm saying a bunch of stuff here. So that's
Do we
pretty
know
phenomenal.
what the
Mhm.
underlying language and frameworks are for this one?
Yes, glad you asked. And I think I actually have let me see, I had his GitHub actually up a few minutes ago because I thought it was pretty phenomenal what he did. Let's see if I can find it again without having to go look for it. Maybe not. Let's see. I'll go look real quick and see if I can find it while you guys are
Do you want me to
looking at.
switch your screen while you're
Yeah,
looking? Okay.
if it doesn't come up, it doesn't. But um, and ironically, I just had it up, so that just tells you how crazy I am. But yeah, anyway, I'll go back to the bot. Uh, that's another one. There we go. I'll go back to the bot. I'll find it in a minute, but I can tell you some of the stuff that's on here just off the top of my head. I remember it from writing the blog post. So obviously it's Lex. He's using Lambda. He's using they have they have a RDS that's running as well. He's also using Elasticsearch. So that was pretty huge, and it was something else. I should actually read my own blog, right? The stuff comes out of my brain once I'm finished. But he's actually has a lot of stuff written on AWS that he's using. So the fact that he's mapping this way is pretty phenomenal to me, and it's coming back this quickly. If you want to know more details, obviously read my blog. This is when I was in full mode testing of these. And so I probably have a lot more detail on there about it. But it's pretty phenomenal to me when this one just struck out to me more than anyone else. And before I go on to another one, let me say one more thing about this guy, which I think is totally phenomenal. So our prize was pretty hefty, right? We gave you credits, we had cash money, we had a ticket to reinvent. I mean, this was a pretty hefty prize for this. It was a very nice one. I wish I could have kind of entered. I guess that wouldn't be good, right? But it was a pretty nice prize. This guy gave the money, one of the reinvent passes, and other parts of his prize directly to charity. He gave it to the Black Girls Code organization. And I thought that was huge. So he did all this work to do this. And he still, pretty much gave it all away to these guys, to Black Girls Code. And I think that was huge. I mean, how many of us would put this much work in? And even though it's absolutely helping his company to win this healthy prize, and then just says, hey, let me give it away. So kudos to him. He is number one in my book.
That's pretty impressive. Yeah.
It was. So really quickly, since I did at least have this up. So if you look on my on the blog that I wrote, you'll see Joe Emerson's. I go more into the bot and how it works, what it's based upon. Like you said, it's MySQL RDS, S3, and all the other stuff. So I go into this level of detail, but you absolutely also can go to the if you look at the end of this blog post, I actually give you the link if you want to see all the submissions. So I'll just go ahead and open this up. But if you want to see all the submissions here, you absolutely can. So let me go to my next tab. This sharing thing is so in the way. It's totally getting on my nerves. Let's try that. Here it is. Okay. So if you go to this, you can see all of the submissions. I'm going to obviously talk about the ones that won, but then you can see, for instance, like I say, all the submissions. You can actually see his video that he talks about it. If I had gone to this, I could have immediately got his GitHub address. But you can go, actually, he has his GitHub, and you can see how they deployed it, the full definition of it, and things like that. So this is a pretty phenomenal one to me, especially just simply the fact he gave it away. So that was huge. All right, so let's talk about another one. Really quickly. You'll see I switched to another screen, and this one is for payroll, your money. Now, I don't know if this one is actually going to still be live because this actually was reporting against, your real money thing or whatever, but I can scroll up and show you. But let me talk about this one for a minute. This one is the corporate winner. So the ADB PyBot was a corporate winner. And what was huge about this is they actually created 2 bots for this, not just one. One is for the general public, like me and you, and we want to know stuff about our payroll. Like, report this, is this, I want to report this to my manager. I want this data about my payroll, et cetera, et cetera. So they actually created two of these. One is for you and me, like I said, the public, but the other one is actually for internal people to not only pull reports, but if you have an issue or there's more functionality you need, they actually tie this into Trello. And I thought this was really huge. So let me just go up and kind of show you a little bit of it, since again, some of it is not going to be tied completely, just simply because, again, this was the real deal here. So if you first join, it comes in and says, hi, I'm Pi Innovation Bot. And this is, again, the corporate one from ADP. You can help check your payroll status, get payroll alerts, or even report an issue to your manager. Now, mind you, this is all in a bot. And what's cool is you see they actually use the response cards here. So I can actually choose payroll summary or compare payroll, or even, again, because remember, this is tied to Trello, on Trello list setup. And then I can also report an issue, right? So I thought this was cool because not only is this for me and you, so this is like a real bot that you can use, but they created two bots. One, and when you report that issue, the second bot, if I'm a manager within ADP or within some company that is using ADP, and I actually get this reported to a Trello board, it actually comes up. I can actually then go into my bot and ask a bunch of questions like, what's my payroll summary? Let's see if at least I can get one of these to work. But let me just say this first. To get it started, they have like a keyword, if you will, and Pi is their keyword. So anything you want to put down, you put Pi in front of it, right? So if I go Pi, let me try this. Show me my payroll summary. I'm going to try to do what I know was working. It asked me what's the start date. So let me try this. Pi, I don't know, 01, 01, 09, there you go, whatever came up, 112. See if it has data. And then what's the end date? So I don't know what my end date is. So let's see, let's make up something. 01, let's say this is, I don't know, 21, just because that's the first number that came into my head, 12. So let's hit that. So it says, what's the start date? What's the end date? This. Now, again, this may not have, again, data because, like I said, I'm totally randomly picking numbers, and this was just for the test. We had a set number of criteria because obviously you don't want real payroll data and us mucking around in this. But, you can see that this bot, it'll go out and pull data. But of course, obviously, I don't have data involved with 2012 because it was only a test one. But as you can see, this will actually give you, again, information about your payroll. I'll scroll up here and see if I can find one that, here you go. So actually worked. So maybe I should take the dates that they use that are in the data. I'll try this again in a minute, but just to see what comes back, you'll see that it actually gives the payroll start date, the gross pay, the working hours, et cetera, et cetera. So let's see if I can do the data that they gave me instead of me crazily making up my own data, knowing that all of it's not there. So it says, what's the start date? Let me go up and look at what's the start date that it has data. So let's say 12/10. 2006, I can type that. Pi 2016, 12, and maybe I didn't do it in the right format. This is what happens when you're typing too fast. Okay, and then let's try this, 2016, 12, I think it said 20, but I'm not gonna base it on my memory, which sucks right now. 26, see, not good memory. 26. Voila. See, this is what happens when you actually pick dates that the testing has data. But you see this work. So I said, okay, I want to see my payroll summary. What's the end date? So it gave me the period start, my gross pay, the end date, which was actually 25, all the contributions that this employee or employer made for you throughout the year, the pay date when the money actually hit my account, which is always important, and then the deductions and what was the net pay. And I mean, this is really cool. So this is something that actually is working. This is a corporate bot that, you could use for ADP if they manage your payroll.
And
Like
do you
I
know if it
said,
goes through
go
like
ahead, sure.
do you know if it goes through like an ADP API, or does it have direct access to some sort of local database for payroll?
Great question. It actually goes through their API.
Okay.
So if you look at the whatever I brought it up, this thing, like I said, it's getting on my nerves, the little sharing your screen thing. If you look at the submission for this one, let me go back. They actually talk about this, and I'll show you the other bot. But they actually talk about their APIs and what they do, and they actually created some beautiful graphs. So this was actually like a glint of this when they were really serious about it. So they actually show you the flow if you go look at the submissions of how they built the bot. Like I said, the goal is that you have the employee, the HR manager, and DevOps. So everyone involved in this could do it. You will like this, Randall. They actually save their records after they call the API and get data into DynamoDB for the HR manager. So there you go. But they generate tickets. So think about it. When we work for AWS, and let's say we have something wrong with our payroll, we have a system where we would issue a ticket or generate a ticket for someone in HR to go look at it, right? Well, they actually did the same thing, and I thought it was cool because they used Trello to do it. So you say, report this to my manager or report this issue, and then it actually creates a ticket as a Trello card, save those records to DynamoDB, and then sends it off to the HR manager or to the manager or whoever, that they can actually escalate this to Trello. And I thought that was a really neat and interesting kind of way to do this, much more so than just a typical thing they do. But you can go and see their great graphs. They were really detailed in here of what they did. I was really impressed by this corporate one that they did it. And not just that, like I said, they created not one, but two. So I'm in the employee one, right? But if I click here, this is actually, the DevOps one, which I don't have a lot of data for because the DevOps one actually goes into a real system where they're managing the back end for things for it. But the fact that they didn't create one bot, they actually created two bots here. So you'll see, if I click, how does, it work, it usually will come up with some data. But they actually showed us, more of, all of this. But I don't have the right credentials for this.
Right.
They had a test example so that I could show you.
Like temporarily allowing you.
Exactly, because again, we're talking about some serious stuff here. But the test one, they would run for it. But yeah. Like you'll see, if you're a manager, you want to push the issues to your Trello list, please use the admin key. So again, this was, one that was actually into the DevOps or manager or the custom admin one, but they created two bots. So I thought that was really cool, not just one. So
that 5DF for the ADP key,
mm-hmm.
that string looks like a MongoDB object ID.
Well, let's see, Randall, what they were.
I'm just saying.
We're live, so I'm not going to say what I want to say about this. I'm just going to go to their page, and all I see on here, Randall, is DynamoDB. So voila,
maybe the backend API is like MongoDB powered. I don't know. I'm just saying because the API key looks a little bit like a MongoDB object ID. MongoDB object IDs will be turning 6 in 2020.
Wow. How long ago was it that you worked there?
A long time ago.
Yeah. Okay. You're not that old. Don't try to fool anybody. But anyway, so what's cool about this? Go ahead. Sure.
Can I hop over to my screen really fast because I just want to show, because you talked about the response cards, and I just wanted to show that the response cards you can kind of demo them, and you didn't have to stop sharing your screen. You can stop.
Oh, okay.
So you can define your response cards using JSON, like the ones we have here, and depending on the platform, it will render correctly. So whether it's Slack, whether it's Facebook Messenger, whether it's some other component, all of that will still render in the optimal format, in the richest format that it can possibly render in. And Lex just manages all of that for you. And if the response card can't be rendered, say because you're going over like a textual medium and that doesn't support that, it will just suppress that, which is pretty powerful.
It is.
I need to do more with that. I'm just I forgot entirely about this feature, and now my brain is just thinking of ways to abuse it. So I'll kick it back over to you. It was really cool.
Ways to abuse it. I won't touch that one either. That's probably not a good thing.
Like I wonder how many buttons you could possibly have in a message, right?
I don't know. I've seen, we we should look that up because the last one I saw with another chatbot that was created, there was at least 6 or 7. So I don't know how you do that. One was pretty, good where it was just a bunch of buttons. So I wonder if you have any limitation of that. That's a great question. I haven't used response cards as much,
I'm
but in
sure
the
there's a
next,
limitation.
I'm sure, if it makes sense to be a limitation, right? I mean, you wouldn't have anyone as crazy as us not having a limitation with response cards because we would actually pick something you have no business picking, right? With the number, it'll be 50 trillion response cards. But anyway, so I'm sure there is a limitation for it, but I don't know. So you know what? We're gonna have to research that when we finish talking about the bots.
If you share your screen again, I'll kick it back over to you.
Okay, let me share my screen again then.
I had completely forgotten about that feature of Lex until I saw it used today.
Yeah, it's really, really, really cool. I mean, I think it's such a cool, thing to do.
So Suki Sava in the chat says just send multiple messages to avoid limits. And there's an interesting problem with that in that the Lex API is kind of a request response model. So you can send one response basically. You can't invoke a conversation on behalf of the user unless you do that programmatically through another channel. So it would have to be another Lambda function firing outside of Lex, or I mean, it could technically be the same Lambda function, but it would have to be something firing outside of Lex. So in the case of Slack, for instance, you would have to set up an API gateway that is a webhook that can fire off to Slack to generate that initial message for you, or to respond to a message that Lex can't listen for. Stuff like that, because Lex only allows you to respond to things that your users generate. It can't do kind of like proactive push notifications.
See, you have educated the world on the wonderful world of Lex. Okay, so where am I talking? Okay, my mind is bad. Okay, we're back. So I'm in Hubspot. So this is another winner. So if you weren't familiar with the chat challenge, let me kind of reverse back really quickly. So you had where if you were an individual or a group that wanted to create the chatbot, you could. And then if you were a corporation, you could create a chatbot. So there was one challenge, but you had, 2 different type of quote unquote winners. The one I just showed you a few minutes ago was a corporate winner. So now I'm back on an individual winner. This was done by a group and it's called Hubspot. And what's interesting about this one is that they actually use a CRM tool that is an open source CRO tool. So I'll just kind of show you their site before I show you the bot. And I thought it was really cute because the site looks very professional. It's like, hey, meet your HubSpot assistant. And like I said, HubSpot is a CRM that is open source that people use. This is our second place winner, I should say that. But again, it shows this. And what was phenomenal about this, which, scrolling just stole my thunder. But what was phenomenal about this one to me was the fact that not only did they do this with Lex on the chatbot, tying it to Slack, but then they also did it with Alexa. So again, Lex and Alexa, they also did it. I always freeze when I say Alexa because I thought my echoes were going to go off, but luckily I didn't say it loud enough. Sorry, Randall. I just looked. It was like, whew, it didn't go off. But what was great about it, it tied it to the name I will not say, so our echoes won't go off. And also, it tied it to Facebook. So I thought this was really powerful, the fact that they went a step further too. So this actual bot is not only published on Slack, it's published on Facebook, it's published on the name I will not say so our echoes won't go off, as well as, again, using Lex and all these technologies. And I thought this is a really powerful thing with using AWS where I can create one solution and then expand it out to these platforms. And they did this all within the same time frame of the challenge. So again, these people didn't just do one, they really overachieved kind of thing. But anyway, so this is their website. You can go in. Again, this is our second place winner, and it just talks about the fact that they tied this, like I said, to a CRM. So let's go back actually to the bot. So this is their bot. Husby. And again, HubSpot is the CRM backend. And you can actually look at information if you're a sales guy and you want to get CRM information or whatever. So I don't know what data they have in it. So I'm going to be safe this time and not make up stuff and look at who they have. So let's see. Um, Batman, that's funny. I think I actually want this one. Update the contact for Batman. Okay, so let's do help first. But I actually
The
kind of
only valid response for what is Batman's contact address is na 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 Batman.
I know, and yeah, I mean, well, this is going to show my age, but I mean, Adam West just passed, so that's pretty sad. I mean, it's like a part of history that's gone. Like this is when Batman had the pow, and actually words came up on the screen, and so yeah, we've come a little bit of a long way, but wow. Anyway, back to this. So I said help, and you see the bot says you can ask me information. So create a new contact, update the contact for Batman example. I'm just gonna have to type that one just because someone actually put Batman in there in their bot, which I absolutely love.
Batman at batcave.com.
Right, exactly. So it says update the contact for Batman, and so since obviously we were talking about Adam, we have to use Adam's West. So Batman's, what is his number? Seven. Okay, so I love Prince, right? So our secret I'll tell you is anytime someone asks me for my number, as far as in like a website that has no business having my number, I always put. Again, if you don't know Prince, this is probably going to be crazy, but I always put the number that's in Prince song, 779311. So that is like my default number for everything. When someone asks me, I just tell my secret for numbers, so I'm going to use that. And then what's this contact's phone numbers only number switch? So I like that. It told me I did it wrong, so let's try that. 9311. Haha. Okay, so if I'm going to do it right, he obviously works really for himself because he's wealthy, but he works for Gotham City. What state? What state was Gotham City in?
New York?
We're going to say New York. I mean, I guess it
Or
was
was it?
supposed to channel.
Is it
I
New
don't
York or
know.
Chicago that they're basing it on? I mean, it's a fictional city, but
Right, but it's like, yeah, but it looks to me more like either you're right, New York or Chicago. And I think when I first saw it, I'm gonna say New York. Oh, to you guys, people who lived in New York so long. So I'm gonna put New York. It did not like that. Let's try that. This New York. Hi, likes that. Okay, so
and that's
great. So this is
probably using the Amazon.city slot type.
yep. And the fact, yeah, because it's validating that that's an actual valid one, and right, NY would be a state, right? So
Right.
I goofed that. Yeah, that makes sense. One of the few places. So I like this. See, another response card. I'm gonna have to use this more often now. I have another bot I have to finish building, so I won't tell the secret of the bot I'm building. I shout out to it with Arun and I are building such a cool bot, and I can't wait. Um, Another member of our great evangelism team. So anyway, confirm yes, and boom, okay, I totally like that. Boom, this contact is created. That's kind of cool. The fact that I don't know, that's funny to me. But anyway, so one thing to note here is you can absolutely, for your responses back to the customer, you can, for your confirmation and your questions, can do anything. And I really like this. Another thing you should note about this, and this is just the power, and this happens in the bot. Notice I said, what city does a contact live and work in? And immediately Randall said it's got to be using the slot for a city and state, which, right? But what's more cool about it is when I typed it wrong, it came back and said again, okay, what's the city and state? You can also have it come back to say, that's not correct. Can you type out city? So you can get really customized with this. Remember, you can tie this back into Lambda. So you can get really customized with the responses both in Lex or either in Lambda to do some other additional verifications, let's say. So I think that's, really cool. It really said, okay, that's not right, Tara. NY is a state, right? I'm trying to do the quick typing. And then I typed in New York and it was like, okay, cool, that's valid. And you notice what's also cool about this is when I typed in New York, it actually found that the state was NY. So I thought that was really cool, just seeing, how bots work and how Lex is doing this power for you. And then I
Well,
confirmed.
I don't think the state propagation was done by Lex. Maybe it was. I could be wrong.
Maybe.
I've been wrong before. But I'm thinking there's got to be some sort of background Lambda function that's doing that portion of it.
Yeah, well, this one I know for a fact does have Lambda in the back end. Well, the challenge had you supposed to use Lambda, so that's kind of I guess we're not saying anything that's really whatever. But the bot that, if you type it in wrong for error message, you can configure that in Lex, right?
That
You
you
have the
can
little,
configure in Lex, yeah.
yeah, you can, yeah. So you absolutely can, if they're, the error, you can configure that in Lex. But yeah, this is definitely using Lambda because that was the challenge. So we're not saying any innovative here. You had to use Lambda.
Do you mind if I take control just for a second? Because I'm going to
knock
show
yourself out.
a way that I personally use my chatbots.
Sure.
How do I gotta.
You want me to stop?
No. You're good. You don't have to stop
Okay.
streaming. I just have to switch little control here. So one of the things that I do is when you're building a function for Lex, you get this kind of like event and context for your Lambda. So you have your Lambda handler, and then in the Lambda handler you do flow control event function, or call equals so and so, and then you can do call invoke, and like you can invoke the function that flow control returns. And one of the things that I do is based on the event, you can return a JSON structure that can have an action. This is not the perfect JSON. I don't remember the exact structure, but one of those actions can be elicit intent.
Yep.
Which will try to get you to respond to an additional intent in the bot, or you can elicit slot. And elicit slot, you can pass in a custom message, or if the slot itself already has a defined message on it in the Lex bot control, like what state does this contact live in,
right?
Then you can have it just pull from that and run with that, rather than you having to define it every time. So it's pretty flexible in that if you do need to override what the default prompt is because you're trying to customize it, or you're in some edge case of the app, you can do that and still elicit the slot and still rely on the mechanics of Lex to parse it and make sure the slot is right. So you don't have to write up a bunch of custom flow control. It's all just kind of switching between either elicit slot or elicit intent. And I found that model to be really powerful, but it's something that I didn't get when I first started using Lex. It took me a little while because I'm really bad at reading documentation. I normally just go straight to the source code. And it wasn't clear to me from the source code that was how it was working. So I'll kick it back over to you now.
Would it be wrong for me to say it wasn't clear in the documentation at first when we saw it either? But I mean, it's much better now.
Was years ago.
Yeah, I was like, I guess if someone's starting now, they don't have to go through our pain. But I was about to say it wasn't exactly clear when we were first starting either. But okay, well, I'll leave that alone. What's great about that, just the tying off of what you were saying, is now that the documentation is much better, that there is a sample, I think now, that's in the Lex documentation that obviously didn't exist when we were starting to look at Lex, that actually shows you how to have two intents that actually can go back and forth with each other. I think it's the book trip or something scheduled. I should probably look versus me spitting out random stuff that it's not at. But I know that in the the Lex documentation or the sample at this point, that they actually have a bot that actually has two intents, and that you can actually look at those two intents. And what's great about that is looking at those two intents is that you can go to go to this bot if I ever find it. So this is what I'm trying to do, talking in, and
I think it's, if you go to Lambda and then you go into Lex from there, you can
find. Oh no, here it is. They've updated this example bot here, book trip. This one. So this one actually has two intents. There is book hotel and book car. And to just to tie up what Randall was saying, this one actually uses two intents and goes back and forth. And this is relatively, I guess, new for documentation. Well, I'm probably as bad as looking at documentation as you, but looking at this, I think now they have a blueprint for this one that actually creates a sample Lambda for you. So if you want to, all the stuff that we didn't have when this first starting.
I might go play with that one. So yeah, cycling between the different intents. That was kind of a breakthrough moment for me, and I'll be honest, like it happened pretty early on when I was using Lex. That like it became obvious that was the paradigm you were supposed to do. But I feel like a lot of people who are getting started with Lex or even other chatbot services don't realize that you want to push as much of the work onto the engine as possible, and your function should just be doing the or as much as the human related parsing and responding work onto the engine as possible. And
right.
Then your Lambda function should be doing the
like validation, right? Yeah, like or pulling data from Dynamo or something like that, right? It should be doing the underlying plumbing stuff. And you're right, but you're right. When you first start building bots, I don't think that's really obvious till you actually start to build them. Like, hey, let's let the Lex do the intents and the heavy lifting there. But yeah. Anyway, so this is Hugsby, and like I said, it's great. I just created a fake contact of Batman, Adam West. Let's see. I also can ask for contacts for people that exist. So I'll probably go back and actually look for the content of Adam West since I created two. But let's see. It says, let's say any new deals. Let's try that one. So any new deals? There's one new deal. That is $150,000. And then it's in discovery stage. So that's cool. And then let's see what else we can do here because I want to make sure I actually get data. I can ask for a contact. So let's see. Can you tell me the contact info for Santa? Can you tell me the contact info for Adam West?
Looks like channel disconnected.
Yeah, it says channel disconnected me. Very weird. I think it did.
There we go.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Is Adam West Batman? That's cool. Confirm. Yes, Adam Man is Batman. Okay. So they're using response cards really nicely here. So what information would you like? Let's do the summary. And that's cool. And say, this is what I found in him. He works for track of something. Hailing from New York. This is cool. I'll just get to the point though. Their phone numbers, blah, blah, blah. That's kind of cute. That kind of whatever. So that's that. But anyway, this is the second place winner, Hugsby. And it's pretty phenomenal. Since we only have about 15 minutes, I'll just quickly tell you about the last one. It is Money Lion. Back to another one about your money. So Money Lion is one that here I'll go to the blog post so you can see my
so
my snapshot of it. Go ahead.
Was by Andrew Reese, Andrew
yes, I forgot to tell the names.
John
Thank
Wetzel.
you. Thank you. Totally forgot the names. Shout out to them. Sorry. In fact, let me tie off on that. If you go to the website, you can see these great guys who wrote it, this system. Thank you for that. Totally forgot to get the names of these guys who made this fabulous bot. Sorry, it's Tara. Okay. This is why I have you. Thanks. So anyway, let me show you the screen really quickly of Money Lion. So it is your personal finance monitoring bot. And it actually ties to a bank called Money Lion. So it comes in and it says, what can I help you with? I want to know which bank accounts are linked. Sure, here's what's been linked. And it tells you all of your information. I thought that was funny. Can you tell me how much I spent on Uber last month? How much I spent on Starbucks, right? So I like this one because it's very conversational. You actually feel like you're talking, to a real person. So I got back and can you tell me how much I spent on Uber last month? And the fact it says, I see, what about Starbucks? And it responded to that. To me was pretty interesting. It actually really put you in a mindset of being in a conversation, even down to what can I help you with, right? It does, you can say a lot of stuff here.
So I wonder if they were able to do that with session attributes, and they have like a one session attribute that's just like last intent called or something, or if they
Hmm.
actually did it in the subsequent invocation. They remained in the initial intent. Can you tell me how much money I spent, or like get money, and then they they just kept capturing all the input within that intent. I wonder how they did it.
I'm not sure. Now I know this one actually used Spring Boot, so that was interesting to me. So they called their own internal APIs against the bank accounts, and these internal APIs are created with Spring Boot, MySQL backend. And they tell some of the things, but they don't tell that. Like, I could see some of the technology from it, but I didn't see that. So I was trying to
Yep.
see if I saw their, nope, I don't see their GitHub
We may never know.
on here. Yeah, you never know. But they talk about, if you go to the submission, at least they talk about the flow, right? So this was interesting to me because a lot of people on the other ones used, JavaScript. This one actually used Java. And I thought that was interesting. And so they had the JavaScript integration with the Chatbot UI because they actually have a web page this goes to where it's on the account. So you had the Money Lion app. This was interesting to me. This is another kind of nuance this one did. This is our third place winner, by the way. The nuance with this one was you actually access this bot via the Money Lion app. So they actually have an app, or you can go to their website. So you actually access this through the application or the website. Like when you log in and you're looking at your bank stuff, you can actually have a personal banker that's there to do this. That's dynamic versus having someone on the other end. So I thought that was interesting too. But this is obviously using Lex, it's using Lambda, but these are Java-based Lambda functions, which is also a little bit different than the ones before. And they're using Spring Boot to actually build their APIs, and then the back end is MySQL. So I thought this was interesting in the fact that instead of tying it to, most people, obviously, when you think of bots, you first think of, okay, I would tie it to Slack or Facebook or et cetera, et cetera. They actually tied this to their mobile app, which is very cool. It's one of the things, if I ever get to all the projects that I want to work on, I want to make a really robust mobile bot app. But I thought this was cool because they infused this into their app that already existed.
And we have a pretty good model for getting your chatbot into at least iOS, right?
Actually, for Android and iOS.
Okay.
So if you
I
go
don't do
to,
mobile dev, as you know, so I'm
no,
just
no worries, no worries. So if you just want to get started, just off the rip, you have no clue how to start integrating Lex with your mobile app, you absolutely can go to Mobile Hub. And I don't know if everyone is familiar with Mobile Hub. Um, but if you go to Mobile Hub, I literally just kind of click and point around. I don't know if people are familiar with it, but if you go to Mobile Hub, as you can see, I'm not logged in. So luckily you can't see there. But if you go to Mobile Hub here, I just click and point and say that I want voice integration or bot integration or whatever I want here, and it actually will do this. So, I'm just gonna quickly just Lex test here. And if I create a project, so this is for people that you really don't know how to get started with the mobile world and infusing AWS in it. There is an easier way to do it. And since we're talking about Lex here, I can just click on, hey, conversational bots. And these bots, the book trip and the order flowers, are the same bots in the sample where you actually create it from scratch, where it shows you how to build the Lambda hooks and everything else. But what's cool about this is I can take that sample, and let's say I actually went through the tutorial on that other end and I built the book trip, for instance, sample that's out there. I can literally click this, and let's say I don't know anything. Let's go from that, right? I can click this and name it whatever. I won't do it, but name it whatever, and then create. I will do it just because. Let's say, test book trip, because then I'll know which one to delete that's there. You still get the same, hey, are you delivering this to children? I'm not. Create bot. And Mobile Hub, what it will do, all the stuff that you would do if you went out to the console, it will do for you and do it in a manner for the mobile app. And actually, when I finish this, you can download the code. So you see there's iOS. Yeah, so it's iOS Swift, there's iOS Objective-C, there's Android, and let's say even if you're doing either on the web or either mobile web, you also have JavaScript. So you can actually, do this here. So I've created this. Let's say I want to do Android here. It'll sit here. You see it now. It generated this sample app that now has Lex integrated into it, and now I can download that app. And that gives me like half of the way, not only of learning how I would integrate this into my own app. It gives me an actual functional working project that I can look at and see how we tie the services and mobile and everything else. So if you're a newbie mobile person and you need this help, this does exist as well.
I should probably check out mobile development, but despite how awesome this is, I still hate it.
Well, this is why we're a good team, because some of the stuff that you are so great at, like the database stuff, you are my resident database expert whenever I have to do something. I'm not going to say I hate it. That's a very strong word. I just think you love it more than I do. How about that? I'll go with that. And so you are my residence database expert. So that's great. It's okay. It's fine. I have you covered. This is the teamwork thing. Yep. But anyway, so that's that one. So let me go back to the bot here. But if you want to see it in action, they have a video here on the submissions page that you can actually look at it, and it goes through, what about rent, how much you spent on rent, what about in the last 3 months. So it does calculations for you. And this is, like I said, within your mobile app. So you could look at all your data, but let's say you want to aggregate it in different ways. And I thought that was interesting because, how you're looking at your statements online and you say, okay, on this date, you spent this much, but you can literally ask this bot here, after you said how much I spent this month on rent, which is something you can see in the outline of the in your page if you're looking, for instance, at your statement account. But you can aggregate data here by saying, okay, well, how much did I spend in rent in the last 3 months? And then as you see, this bot will say, oh, it'll add up whatever your statement is and then give you that. So I think this is really powerful because it takes just looking at your statement either on a mobile app or the web, at another level.
That's pretty cool. And,
yep.
And so this is by a company. So we had 2 by a company and 2 by individuals, or? Great
question. So this one is actually made by some guys in the company. So it's we actually have their names. It's Benny. I cannot pronounce his last name. Leong. I wish I could ask him because I don't want to say it wrong, but I'm going to say it's Leong, and his team from MoneyLion. So this one is, from individuals actually at MoneyLion that they decided to do this, but they did it as an individual basis. This wasn't from a quote unquote corporation. So the difference is the ADP one was from a corporation tied to a corp that's actually can go out into production and go from there. This was some guys at MoneyLion was like, hey, how can we do this a better way for customers and integrate it into different things? And so I thought that was also very interesting for this bot. That, it was just a bunch of people got together, like let's say you and I got together and we say, hey, we want to do something cool with whatever, and then built this, then submitted it.
Happens.
Now that is what we call a lie, but okay. Anyway, but check out the blog and also the submissions page to learn more about these great bots. These guys are, are pretty phenomenal. And it's just interesting to see the technologies that they use for it and how much they integrated AWS in it. And like I said, you can read more of the details. Oh, one thing I forgot to say, which I thought was really unique, and I do as I was scrolling, I thought about it. Back to build facts really quickly. This is what's cool about having them go from 2 weeks to 2 days to 2 weeks kind of thing and making this faster is they actually took advantage of Athena here. So they have an RDS database in the back end, and they have, think about it, this is for the entire US. So there's lots of data in here. And I got to say this earlier, but just scrolling made me remember what I thought about this that was so cool, and also why he won first place, was the fact that he took all of this data, and started to export it into S3 and then tied it to Athena. So you see how quickly you're getting this data back, right? It's because now you can run these really quick queries on the data using Athena. And Athena just works with just data dumps. It takes, your CSV file or these flat files and store it in S3 or, whatever. And then you can actually make a table out of it. And they did that. I think this was really a powerful use case here because that's a new kind of workload that most people don't think about. But he did this to make sure those queries came back in that, quickly, that 1 minute time frame that you saw. It went through all of that data. I mean, think about it. I asked about a whole state. Some people are asking about data from an entire US, and this is how you can get that data back really quickly. So I thought that was really unique. I forgot to mention that earlier, about from Joe Emerson there. But again, check out these chatbot winners. Get inspired, build your own. You see that Randall and I are inspired to start using response cards more. But yeah, this was really cool looking at these projects, and these guys did some phenomenal work.
Yep. I wanted to say a quick thank you to everyone who built a bot during this contest. So, we had to choose some winners, and choosing winners is not easy, but there were a whole lot of projects that people submitted, and a lot of them were really, really good. So thanks to everybody.
Totally agree. Yeah.
And I'm pretty confident we'll do this again, because I really like the creativity that it encouraged, and I like seeing all of the cool stuff being built. So,
and if people want to actually see all the submissions, we just talked about these 4, but to Randall's point, there's a bunch of them that was pretty cool. If you go to the link, and the link is also in the blog, so if you look at this and you go, I can't read this on the screen, no worries, you can go to the blog post and actually see the link. But if you go under the dev post submissions, you can see all of them. There's a service debt bot, the Cricket bot, there's a trip planner, online boarding buddy. There's a bunch of them out here that, are some really cool one. The Staples order bot, where you can actually order supplies. So, and some of them are pretty funny too. So go check it out for a laugh and, be inspired.
All right. Well, guys, there's a lot of other cool stuff happening at AWS today, so I'd strongly encourage you to check out the blog. There'll be a bunch of other stuff coming out today. I'm excited about that. In order to get all that stuff out, unfortunately, Tara and I have to go back to work. So unless there are any questions from the chat in the next 30 seconds or so, we're going to go ahead and head out.
All right. Bye, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot. And let me know if you build anything cool. You can reach me at randhunt at Amazon or at jrhunt on Twitter. And that's it.